Hold on now. Can you hear me? Oh, he's still on mute.
Howdy.
Oh,
Hey.
if I've done this correctly, I will be so pleased. We've got Sam Clark, our buttons man, behind the camera. He's got another camera set up. You're magnificently blurry.
Is that the background or my face?
The
Great.
background.
Background's great.
That's a typical young dad move. You gotta hide that background. And then
Sammy can't hear? Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And Sam can hear.
I take most of my phone calls from a little box in my co-working space. And so I tend to blur my background so people don't know I'm just in a box.
Fair enough.
No, you're unboxed now. Oh
yeah, I'm not in the box.
This is unbelievable. And this is recording, I do believe. Did it tell you it was recording?
It did say yes.
Okay, now it's only hold on. Hey! Whoa!
Hey!
Hold on. I think we're getting the wrong microphone from you, but this is very good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let's fix that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is
How is
such a treat.
Is this better? Is
This
this
is
good?
such a treat. That's so much better.
Okay, good.
And we're recording now. I only have the free Zoom. So we've got to power through.
We are gunning. Let's make it happen.
We'll look.
I do have a Google Meet through work if that's absolutely necessary.
Now with the Zoom, once it stops, we can start it again.
That's fair.
That's an option, and that also, keeps us honest about how long it's gone for. This is Jack.
Hello, nice to meet you guys.
Hi, Jack.
Hey, Jack.
Jack was the one who let me know that coming on the Crunch was a big deal after I'd done it, because I was on the road and I woke up and I got the invitation. I totally got the times wrong. And then I got a message. I woke up in someone's house on the road going, are we doing the interview now? And I went, I made a terrible mistake. And then we jumped on. And then I didn't know anyone at that house. The guy I was staying with, he was away. His housemates came home and we were talking about the Jews.
I remember the conversation.
Yeah.
That was
all time.
That was a great episode.
In hindsight, I was right. I was mid-manic episode, and now we've safely landed. I'm so happy to have you here on the Catecrunch. As our first. We've had other guests, but those episodes haven't come out yet.
And that you guys are going to be first.
So you're going to be the first.
Oh, let's go. All right.
On the show at the back of the line.
All right.
Yeah.
So obviously we want to keep this one topical so we can talk about the Russell Brand allegations and whether or not he is 100% vindicated. No, I'm just having a good time. And but I want to talk about this trip to Israel. I want to talk about your podcast. And then at some point, if you would like to do any of the catechism with us, we would be on it.
Sure. Of course.
Sure.
I mean, why waste our time on any of that other crap? Let's just get into part 2 of the catechism.
Nah, you can't.
You're so far behind.
No, we're far behind because we haven't uploaded the next 30 episodes.
The next 30 episodes.
Boy, they're
How many have
exciting.
you done?
We did like 30.
I think we're up to 35 now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Have you guys been listening? Have you guys been watching?
I'm a big Catamaran Plan subscriber. I'm not a big Catecast subscriber at the moment. So I need to.
That's fine. I've been on the Catamaran Plan.
Better alone. That's what I've been saying for a long time. Everything grows at its own rate. And
well, I've been a big fan of the Crunch for a few years. So well done, guys.
Oh, look at that.
Podcast.
Jack, can I ask
So
you a
you're
question?
the one dot in Australia.
Exactly.
How old are you?
Oh man, that's a terrible question.
you don't fit into young Catholics anymore.
No, I just turned 36 or 37.
Oh, you're right out of the window.
Yeah,
and
I know.
And you find us relevant and engaging even at your advanced age?
I do. And I have a good friend who's a big fan of your podcast as well. And
who's a big fan?
My friend Mark, shout out to Mark, who I'm assuming will be listening to this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And he's he loves the Crunch. So
that's great.
Well, Jack also does a lot of work. He catechizes in our community. He's hip to the youth. I was thinking, because you both get older, as we all do and must. And, children.
Wait, how old are you guys? You guys are like early 20s?
27.
Yeah, we're mid late 20s.
Mid to late 20s.
How long can you keep doing this is the young Catholic podcast.
I think we're good for a while, to be honest. Like the Catholic world is pretty old.
At least till 37,
so,
you're fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
How long can millennials keep pretending that they're young?
Yeah.
As long as we're frozen out of the housing market, everything's cool and relaxed.
We got this until some like entrepreneurial Zoomer just comes right up.
Well, now you do
and
reels. You're
takes
hip
over.
to the reels and you're hip
Indeed.
on the X, but are you on the tickety talk?
No.
That's a big argument we've had.
Yeah.
I'm pro just put everything on the TikTok.
And I don't want the Chinese government to watch this. But maybe they need it.
I think more than anyone.
They need it. They need to be evangelized. It's not a matter of principle as much as it is a matter of resource allocation.
And time.
Sure. Totally get that.
And also just having it on the phone for a moment, I find to be very dangerous.
Yeah.
I learn every time because I download it and then I upload my comedy and I get rid of it again. And I just know as I'm about to open I have to brace for not even just rampant sexual content, but sometimes just weird. It's the algorithm is. There's a lady at my work she's in her mid-30s, and she said that they had started giving her, like, miscarriage related TikToks.
Whoa!
We may cut this out if it gets too dark. And she's like, I can't stop watching miscarriage, like videos about people who've had a miscarriage and are grieving on TikTok. She hasn't had a miscarriage. She's just at a very maternal age where that's like particularly effective on her, and they figured it out. It's smart. We've got to be careful. So I think it's good to be off there, but that is where the youth are. If we want to,
it's true. And if the issue with TikTok is that if you don't watch it often, they just assume you want to see pornography. Yeah.
I mean, that's
you
a pretty
probably
good
want to
default.
see that, right?
Probably a savage.
I had an
most
experience.
people. Yeah.
I had an experience at Mass the other day. I had my son, he's 9 months old. I was walking in the back of the church because Mass takes far too long for a 9-month-old to deal. And I was in the very back row, and there's this young gentleman who was on TikTok. I was like, that's fine.
He's at Mass on the talk.
He's at Mass on TikTok. I wasn't going to say anything, but he swipes, and then immediately a big booty Latina pops up, and she's shaking her thing. And I had to go over to him. I was like, man, it's the announcements. It's 5 minutes. Like, you can wait 5 minutes.
No, I love that of all the sections, he did choose the announcements.
Yeah, that's right. That's the most wholesome.
Right. There's one reprieve.
Yeah.
Where the secular world creeps in again. Well, that's look, in his defense, he didn't know that was going to come up, but you should know that something like that might happen.
Yeah.
Well, in his attack, he kept watching it though, right? So
he put it away, and then I walked away, and then I turned around and he's still scrolling. He just can't get enough of those ladies.
That is crazy.
Even at Mass, But he was there. He was there the next Sunday. I saw him again. I said, "What's up?" So hopefully we'll forge a bond.
It is that line between it. It works if you work it. And
whereabouts are you guys located? You guys go to the same community?
No. I live in Oklahoma.
Oh, right.
In Florida. Yeah.
Did you guys meet at like college or something, or
we met on the internet?
You tell.
We met on the website formerly known as Twitter, and I
think they're calling it X now. Crazy. They're calling it X.
Elon
X Twitter.
It's X Twitter. Yeah. We had anonymous Twitter accounts, anonymous Catholic Twitter accounts before that was like a fascism thing.
Sure.
And
you were trolls before it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And we met through that. It was basically just it was anonymous because we were ashamed of our faces. And so we were able to put Disney profile pictures and pretend like you were ruggedly masculine.
One of us did that.
Ruggedly masculine Flynn Rider. Kevin Durant now has my old profile picture. That's my claim to fame.
What's better than
he's a basketball player?
Yes, the basketball player Kevin Durant.
All right. Now I'm trying to become abreast of your sports before I.
Don't worry. That's about the extent of my knowledge.
He's about to retire, so you're wasting your time. So
Kevin Durant is still playing basketball? Wasn't he dating a Kardashian? I don't know.
He's almost as old as Jack at this point, so he's getting up there.
He's basically
and Jack's lying about his age. Jack was very what?
Do you guys know James is moving to America next year? Have you heard this?
In January.
I've got to get the visa process. Your country is not hospitable to white collar immigrants. You love a big booty Latinas streaming across the border, unregistered. But as filling out the visa paperwork it's exciting. But I'm going to be at this Focus. Is it called Focus Conference?
Really?
You're going to be
I'm
at
on
Seek.
there.
Okay.
Sorry, at Seek. Is it called Seek?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that a
this
big thing?
Exciting.
Mhm.
Well,
Look,
it's
is that-
big for us.
Yeah, great. I mean, I'm so outside.
As a
of-
guest speaker, James?
No, I think I'm going to be doing Vox Pops. I don't know if this is a good idea. I might be doing the Matt Frad show and working on that with him.
Good.
That'd be good.
And he's like, fly to St. Louis when you start. And we're going to do things at this festival. I looked at it, I'm like, these are big names. This seems
Keynote.
It's not.
James
It's
McCann.
not. You can do
Don't
whatever
worry.
you want.
They're big names for people who know. And for people who don't, they're like, I don't know who this guy is.
Yeah. Most
That
of the
priest is
students
strangely
there, most of
attractive.
the
What was his
college
name
kids
again?
that are there, they have no clue who Scott Hahn is. They have no idea. They have no idea what a Matt Frad is. They're just going because the cute girl at their Newman Center is also going.
Yes.
Now,
So
there's another name for this is a thing that we don't really have here, maybe because we didn't have as many Irish come here. But there's like, what's the thing
I
that
think the Irish were
Margaret's-
poorer, actually.
Hold on, but no, but like just like
It's a longer journey.
what's the thing that so Margot's at Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Jack's
My
Bo.
girlfriend's at, Notre Dame.
and
Notre
the
Dame.
What's the
lore
name
is
of
coming
the-
together.
what's the name of the center that she was at? We spoke on the phone this morning. She was like, I went to a tailgate.
Oh, the
I went to a
Nikolai,
special Catholic tailgate, a historic getting drunk in a car park for
Yeah.
the church. And I was like, how many of these things exist? You can't do that here. You
A
can't
Newman
go-
Center?
No,
Is
it's the Center for Philosophy and Theology, the Nikolai the something center.
don't
can't
know.
remember. Yeah.
But there's no historic center where you can get blotto before watching football.
James, I feel like that's something we need to build here.
Hmm?
That's
Especially
an American
with their national
institution.
character.
I feel like Australians would be more amenable to that sort of activity. Am I
Isn't
just
it
not
just every building on the corner as a place where you can kind of get tossed before a game of
Well, you do it
footy?
indoors, I guess, is the main thing.
Yeah, it's too hot to do it outside.
But I think
That's
also
fair.
we do it so regularly and the drinking is so normalized that we don't look as I don't think for as many events. At events, we really
Oh,
try.
sure.
We now have a culture of paring it back.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You can't get a full strength beer at a football game. You can't, but I was on the Staten Island ferry and people are having beers on there. This is a great memory. Public transport and people don't bat an eyelid. Here, you can't walk around outside with a beer without being tackled by a policeman.
Oh, yeah, you'll get arrested for sure. Anyways, I want to
Well,
hear
yeah.
about this
Sorry.
pilgrimage.
Oh, sorry.
Let's
Oh,
talk,
yeah,
stop
sure.
talking about the
All right.
beer.
Well,
I'm
drive
very
the-
keen to hear
drive
about
the ship.
pilgrimage.
Steer, pilgrimage. What happened? Where'd you go?
And was
Should
this a
we
crunch
reinvade?
pilgrimage? Did you guys do
Yeah.
that?
Yes, it was.
It was a crunch pilgrimage. So there's a tour company. I don't know if you have these, but we have tour companies that reach. Don't laugh at me, Patrick. We don't know what they have and what they don't have.
It's like the quintessential American thing. Like
We have
I don't know
tours
if you're.
and
I don't know if you have
companies.
this. We have these things called slushies, and there's
Does
just
your language
syrup
have
and
an
ice.
No, we
alphabet?
don't call them
A
that.
real question I asked before.
You
and I
can't
won.
say slushies into a microphone. It's like the worst racial slur we have.
Is it really?
No, I'm
That's
joking.
wonderful.
I'm just having a fun time with it.
Oh,
But,
He just said that to us, a word that is very common in his part of the world. He said
Yeah.
on our podcast, and we had to bleep it out several times.
Oh,
Wait,
I do
did
remember
I?
that. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
What,
Oh, yeah,
what,
we had
what
a
did
lot
you
of-
say?
You can probably say it on our podcast. What word was it?
I can't say it in the States. I'll get tackled by a policeman. They're
right,
watching
let's
me
not-
through the
let's not-
TikTok app on my phone.
It's a slur
Is-
for slushy here. He just said the c word over and over again.
Different cultures, different people. It's a beautiful time. We're all growing.
Indeed.
You made it to Israel.
We went
with
to
a bunch of
Israel.
listeners.
Speaking of different cultures,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
So they reached out to us. They said, "Hey, you've got a podcast of some notoriety. You should lead." We were leaders.
Yeah.
Somehow we were qualified, and we had about 20 of our listeners that joined us, and we went to Israel, and we were in 3 places. So we stayed at the Sea of Galilee for about 4 days, and then we were in Bethlehem for 2 nights, and then we stayed
Nice.
in Jerusalem for another
Mhm.
3 days. And we
Wow.
it was
Amazing.
bam, bam,
Yeah.
bam. We got to see a ton of stuff. It was incredible.
Yeah. Did you guys have a priest along with it with the pilgrimage or?
Yes. So one of my priest friends from Pittsburgh, he came along, and he was probably the best person to bring on the trip. Like he was
Totally.
incredibly open and
6'5",
yeah.
really jacked. Like he was.
huge.
I felt very safe with him.
He a very long beard, which covered his
No radical
collar and
Jews tried
protected
to
him from hate
firebomb
crimes.
our pilgrimage when our priest was there.
Is that true? That could be
Well,
true. I've been reading stories about what's
While we
happening.
were
So-
there,
Pretty wild,
while we were
yeah.
there, that there was a monastery that got firebombed by
Yeah.
radical
Oh, you were there
Jews.
for that.
Just a couple hours away from where we were. So
Yeah.
Well, it's
Thankfully,
Radical
because
important.
Israeli
Father-
citizens, as you would say.
It's not
Yeah.
just the Muslim who can do this. We no, it's that's bizarre. That's a very
Yeah.
strange. Sure, the tour company was not jazzed that was happening on the well publicized tour at that
They
particular.
No.
kind of just didn't bring it up. They just kind of pretended like it didn't happen, and they were like, "You
Have
guys
you-
had fun, right?" And we were like, "Yeah, yeah."
Yeah, there was a
narrowly-
monastery that was firebombed, but
We
that's
narrowly
probably-
dodged immolation, but other than that, we're doing.
We were staying
great.
like a 20-minute walk from Damascus Gate, which they told us do not go to at night, and we went to it at night.
Nice.
And a fight broke out. So
That's right. If you die on a pilgrimage, I think it's straight to heaven, right? So
it is part of
yeah.
that is part of it.
it's a shame
It
you guys didn't get immolated.
It
I
was
know, what a
it was a
bummer.
very intense atmosphere once you got to the holy city. It was
Mm.
very very intense. It was just like you could feel it.
Well, can I ask,
Feel
did
the
anything?
racial tension?
Yes. No, I felt that way in Los Angeles. And it was a real surprise
Yeah.
to me.
The holy city of
Yeah.
America.
Well, I
Yes.
mean, it's these. I
City of
mean,
Angels.
it says something about
Yeah.
it's an automotive paradise. Did you find anything just as we ease towards the catechismal section of the podcast? Did you find anything that like theologically jumped out at you? Like, man, there's a lot of gravel. That's really made me rethink
What-
this part of the gospel.
About
Was
the
that-
rock or something. Man, that rock's not very big.
I just want like
What
you
was he
said,
saying
were you
about
there? I
Peter?
mean, have either of you been to the Holy Land before?
No, first time.
I had never been out of the country of America.
Yeah, same.
Really?
Well, you've been there.
Wow.
It's really big. You can go anywhere, and you're not out of America yet. You
That's
can go
true.
Yeah,
thousands
that's
of
true.
miles.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think there were a few things that were
Wait,
notable.
you'd never been to Canada?
No.
It's
We-
just
I-
there. Mexico,
No, but-
it's just there.
Look at how far away Florida is from Canada. That's where Patrick's from. I'm from Kansas.
Now
This
I
is-
found out.
this
I
is
found
hours
out
and
that-
hours of a drive.
Cuba
found out
is,
that you
Cuba
can go
is a
to-
dinghy ride away from Florida.
Yeah, but you couldn't go to Cuba until like 2 months ago. You know, it's like you couldn't go
Did
there.
Biden open up Cuba travel?
No, I think
No,
Obama
he
did.
closed
but
it.
I
Obama
wasn't.
Obama did.
Okay.
And then Trump
Yeah.
closed it. I think Biden
Oh.
opened it again.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse
Yeah.
me, I don't want to derail. What did you, what did
There
you
was
find?
a very famous missile crisis.
Yeah.
I
There
can't
were
look. Kennedy should have given them air support on that beach, but we can go on.
there were certainly no Bay of Pigs in Israel. So we
Nice. You
thank
sleeper
you.
with that one. You go.
doing my best. So there were a few things. The geography was fascinating. So there were a few things where, so you know that story where Jesus preaches to the Nazarenes,
Yeah.
and they get all pissed, and they're like, "We're gonna throw you over the cliff," and he passes through their midst.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we went to the synagogue in Nazareth where that would have happened, and then we went to the cliff
Oh,
where he would have been tossed, and it is a trek. And so
Yeah.
it like we took a bus and it took us 10 minutes, and we're like outside of the city, and it would have been probably an hour walk at least. And so just thinking about how mad the Nazarenes must have been
yeah.
to chase Jesus for an hour.
An hour.
To,
Yeah.
to then try to, so it wasn't like we'll just go out of the synagogue and we'll throw them off this local cliff that we have here. It was like
Yeah.
they had to go.
It was a regional cliff at
It- yeah.
best. It was
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
it was
also
not
does
in the town.
we've
That was
spoken
interesting.
about the
Yeah.
to what extent of the. I mean that because that reads as miraculous, like he disappears and somehow shifts, but that's also he could lose them in the run at that point.
That's
I would
true.
think.
He just hid behind one of the many, many, many rocks in between
Yeah.
that cliff. And
What a modernist,
Nazareth.
disgusting
Mhm.
take, James.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
This is-
I listened to a podcast about the Church of England on the way here, so I'm looking to explain away every single miracle that I can.
You're looking to explain away every miracle you can, and also seize a few monasteries if you're up to the challenge.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a lot of money in there, and we could put those people to work in our nascent factories.
I just found a book of essays by Dorothy Sayers. Do you guys know Dorothy Sayers?
Heard the name.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's an English author, Catholic. I think she's famous for translating Dante's Inferno. But she was also
okay.
like she was like involved in the sort of like Chesterton sort of circle, I think. But I just found
She was a
book of-
woman.
She's a woman. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I found this book of essays that she's written, which is great, and it's like unpopular opinions or controversial opinions or something. And the last 4 essays in the book are her doing a critical reading of Sherlock Holmes, like people apply critical readings to the Bible, and so then she tries to like deconstruct like Sherlock Holmes stories and like come up with like coherent narratives that explain the inconsistencies in Sherlock Holmes. And it's very funny. And she's very explicit about the fact that like this can only be funny if you take it 100% seriously, like people who try and deconstruct the Bible, and it makes no sense. And it just ruins the joy of reading Sherlock Holmes. And it's like they're turgid essays. Yeah, it's really good.
Well, he was also a deep spiritualist, right?
Yeah, he was a theosophist.
And he believed in fairies.
Fairies, very strongly. Yeah.
Who did?
Wonderful. Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, Conan Doyle. Yeah.
Well, Sherlock Holmes would have turned his nose at, but the whole Sherlock Holmes is meant to be an attack on rationalism, right? It's like a sneaky, nasty anti-rationalist.
You know, I've never read any Sherlock Holmes. No. Father Brown.
I thought it was fun little stories of a man with a pipe and various.
Sherlock Holmes is the most adapted character in history.
Really?
More iterations of Sherlock Holmes than any other character. Yeah.
Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Surely by this point, Spider-Man's getting up there.
Nope.
I feel like we've had a couple. We've got a new Spider-Man every 2.5 years at the moment.
The last movie was literally about how there are millions and millions of Spider-Men.
That's
yeah.
That's the sneak to get across the line. Is
that's
the
sneak
movie you're introducing 57.
Some guy furiously writing in the Marvel Studios trying to.
I mean, come on, you got Sherlock Holmes, the original. You've got Robert Downey Jr. You've got Benedict Cumberbatch. You've got Sherlock Gnomes.
Which was an excuse to get the songs of Elton John out in the world.
I guess.
I know they were all. It was all Elton John songs throughout Sherlock Gnomes.
As if we need an excuse.
I want the Sherlock Holmes.
Have you seen it?
Extended universe.
I watched the end of Sherlock Gnomes in a children's hospital. I don't remember why I was there. Sometimes that's just a fun place to go to hang out. But I do remember watching the end of Sherlock.
There's always something going on, always something interesting.
This is gonna we got the 40 minutes. I don't know how long we've been going for, but let's turn. I think we turn. How long? How many minutes? We got 26.
25.
That's at least time for 1 or 2 questions before we have to reboot.
Yeah.
All right, but we got to remember where we're up to at this point.
Oh, I haven't. Well, I'll let you shuffle through that while I engage with some. All right, I'll shuffle through that. I mean, I'm not going to.
I will shuffle away.
We'll just wait.
That's right.
Stay here.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. No, we're not organized. We very much appreciate you guys getting up so early to do this. It's late for us, but
it's no problem.
I was up already. It's.
Well, how do you have the one child?
Yeah, just the one.
Well,
I wasn't up for him. I get up before him so that I can do things before he wakes up.
I know of people who do this, but I've never. We're 3 kids deep, 4 years in. I've never once managed to get up before them to enjoy the day.
I don't know where we're up to, so I'm just going to ask you guys a couple of questions because I feel like it'd be really good to get for our audience get to know you guys a little better, and also for me because I don't know your story all that well. So
wonderful.
We're doing the compendium of the catechism.
The right answer.
Huh?
It's a good bounce back from failing to find the right one.
We're doing the compendium of the catechism. What do you guys think about the compendium? What was your process in catechesis? You're both cradle Catholics. Did you go through Christian initiation when you were young? Tell us your story.
Ethan, go ahead. Tell him. Tell him all about your.
Whoa, thank you.
Well, it all started with for Ethan. It must have started with that "Don't hate me because I'm Catholic" T-shirt. That was
it did start with that. Well, I was born with the compendium in the hand, like an Athenian legend.
They don't. They don't know John Henry, Ethan. They don't.
That's true. They don't know about that. But I was a cradle Catholic. I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and so I had this rigorous, harsh Catholic upbringing by my parents, wherein we would never skip mass and pray before every meal, which I thought was harsh at the time, but when I look back, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like even when we're on vacation, we're going to mass, which I thought was ludicrous. We're at the beach. What are we doing? But my parents were very faithful, which is rare, given that they're of the age that they are. And so
that's a good way to put it.
I always kind of believed, I vaguely believed everything that the church taught. Like I knew it was correct because I trusted my parents. But I didn't really have any sort of initiation into like being formed as a Christian because they didn't really know what they were doing until I went to a conference here. It was a Steubenville conference. They had youth conferences all over the country, and I went to Adoration, and they have the slow acoustic guitar playing, and I realized, oh, this is this is not only very emotional and there's lots of pretty women around, but that's also Jesus Christ in the monstrance. And so that was a very powerful experience for me. And so Patrick, the t-shirt that Patrick alluded to is I instantly went and I Americanized my spiritual experience by buying a bunch of merch so that I could then go back to my I could go back to my school and show all the kids like, hey, look at what happened to me over the summer. And I had this one t-shirt that said, don't hate me because I'm Catholic, and it glowed in the dark. And so I would always turn off the lights and then make people ask me questions about the faith.
They'll just it's a shirt and a show. You got a whole routine.
The kingdom of God can be likened to a teenager who had a spiritual experience and took all the $20 his mom gave him and bought a t-shirt.
Yes, and stood on a hill. And so I started learning a lot on my own. It was mostly started with the social issues. So I wanted to understand gay marriage and abortion. I wanted to understand why Protestantism was the way that it was, and the Eucharist and all these things. I started learning Catholic Answers. I was like self-taught in a lot of ways, and then started reading books. I did have a compendium of the Catholic Church that I looked up from time to time, but it was hard because it didn't really have the answers that I was looking for, which is like, why is death so scary? Even though I'm a Christian, not in there. So I had to go and figure that out somewhere else. But that's what kind of started my journey. I ended up being a missionary for a few years after college. And was pretty invested in my Newman Center in college as well. So that's for me. Patrick, what about you?
When I was in middle school, I was kind of similar to Ethan. I was cradle Catholic, and I generally accepted everything my parents taught me. So my mom took me to mass. It was just me. It was a me and her thing. We went to mass every week. My brothers and my dad stayed home. That ended up changing and became a family thing. But I was always very like, we're Catholic. I'm committed to this, but more out of like stubborn.
Odd. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of like, just like, this is what I've been taught and you're wrong and get out of here, And so that was kind of my experience of my faith. And I went on like a middle school retreat. It's like an overnight retreat. And I remember it was in 7th grade, and we went into the Adoration Chapel. And I remember, I was like, I felt the presence of God there, and I was writing, and I like felt very connected to God and very close to God. And I remember walking out of the chapel and walking back to the retreat center. And I thought to myself, if that experience was real, if I remember that experience, I'm going to have to change my entire life. And so I decided to forget the experience. And I decided that it didn't happen, and I was going to keep doing what I was doing and living my life. And then my 8th grade year was like the worst year ever. It was just very much like God kind
hard
of
to be
like,
13.
Here's what it's like. Here's what it's like to try and do things on your own, right? It was just like, up until that point, my life had been pretty simple. And I felt close to God, but I felt far away from him. I was like, I was going after different things. It doesn't really matter. But a year later was my Steubenville conference. And I remember sitting in that room, and it was like the same experience again. And I remember God feeling like, hey, don't do that this time. Like, just don't do that this time. And I was like, okay, got it. Won't do that again. And so that was kind of my conversion moment, was like, this is what happens when you go away from me. And if you don't do that, then you'll be this way. And so that was my kind of my solidifying of my faith. And then after that, I was like, oh, I want to be a theologian, and I want to go to Franciscan University, where it's a Steubenville conference every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you both go to Steubenville?
No, goodness no. I would never pay for a private education here in the United States of America.
Hey, I graduated with $9,000 in debt. All right, that's it.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Some of that is still outstanding, according to the
university.
It's all done. Didn't you just say that?
Yeah. So I graduated with my undergrad, but I never paid. My diocese paid for my master's degree, all except for like $425. And I did not have a job when I graduated my master's degree, so I just didn't have the money to pay them, and I just haven't paid off my master's degree. So I have
just hold that as long as you can. You have power over them.
I want to see what happens. I want to see them send it to collections, then ruin my credit score.
We both went to different schools. So I went to school in Kansas, a small school called Kansas State University. I guess it's not small, 25,000 people. Yeah, and then Franciscan on the other side of the country. And but No, we've only been in person together a handful of times over our
Wow.
7 years of podcasting. So
Crazy. But you guys like are obviously good mates. Like you guys must like each other enough to
Sure.
talk to each other all
Yeah.
the time. Yeah.
It's all an
That's
ass.
easier when the person's far away.
Yeah, that must be true.
Yeah.
sometimes it's harder because you don't have to. You can let things fester for a lot longer when you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
together, and that can have some negative consequences.
Yeah,
But
we don't
try
really
to
have that
nip
problem.
stuff in the bud.
I don't have that problem. Jack has that problem because Jack is very strong, melancholic. He'll just come to and he go, 3 months ago, you looked at me a certain way, and you have to now apologize.
Oh, that's
for something you don't
Last
remember.
week, I was very clear to you about how you're annoying me.
I noticed Jack didn't like being rhymed at during the 20-minute drive. That's all.
He just talked in poetry to me for
I am.
half an
Look,
hour.
in my defense, I'm trying to quickly bang together 4 or 5 more poems to bulk out a book of poems. They don't have to be good. I was just seeing what worked.
He's workshopping on you. This is just what it's like being friends with a stand-up comedian.
I might have
Oh,
you on poet.
painfully.
Poet. Thank you, poet. Currently, we're rebranding.
Sorry,
to poet.
excuse me. This
Um,
is what it's like being friends with a modern day philosopher. You know, the comedians are kind of like the philosophers of our time.
Don't say that.
I have
to
heard
him.
that said.
The court jesters. You know,
They're like the only people willing to say the truth.
man,
these
I'm
days,
loving
you know?
this. The thinking man's thinking man. It's well, that's why I
Tell me
wanted to
about
just-
Jungkook speaking truth to power.
Oh, yeah. I only realized after that came
I'm
out that was
referencing
very
a
foul
reel
mouthed.
that you made. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that I was going to bleep out the swearing and then I didn't. And then I thought, I got a call from someone in the Catholic media world recently. And we
Ooh,
had,
name
it was, it was just someone who was like, you're getting Catholics are seeing your work now in a way that they didn't necessarily before. Are you prepared for, you play blue as a comedian and there's, you're on a journey, blah, blah, this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like people might become very upset with you. And it hasn't happened yet. Like I figured it would happen by now.
Because
I
it's
keep
because
waiting
people
for it to
go,
happen.
oh, they just, this is Australian. You can just say whatever, the accent
No, I think it's
covers
because
it.
That
people
might
say,
actually get-
"Oh,
yeah.
thank the Lord." There's a normal person who doesn't feel the need to act like a Catholic speaker 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're actually relieved and not
Yeah.
disgusted.
This is definitely never going to be James's problem.
Hmm?
I thought you were talking about the other thing with the you were contacted about a show that was being run by the diocese, and then they were.
Oh, well, yes, there was a show run by the diocese. And I got added to it. It was 2 singers who were doing a songwriting workshop the next. I don't know if I've spoken about this on the pod. So they were doing a songwriting
No, you
workshop retreat. And it was very nice. And the diocese is sponsoring that. And then they said, James, do you want to open? And I said, sure. And they said, right, we'll put you on the poster. And then they sent that off to the diocese. And the diocese said, we better look this guy up. And they got it
No.
within a day. They said, we will not be associated with this man. And it's
That's brutal.
The
Well,
diocese of what?
Oh, we better not say, but it wouldn't be too hard to figure it
but
out.
Adelaide. No, I met the guy at the concert. I was like, "You're the guy who kicked me off the post, who wouldn't back it." He said, "It was me." Yeah, and we had a great back and forth about
I
it.
stand by it.
I had released a video called "AIDS Needle" the day before about someone with an AIDS. So I understand it's a difficult. It's hard to.
Plain a blue, James. I like that.
I have a
You have
I have a
to-
sneaking suspicion that the reason that Patrick and I don't get booked at more things is because every 3 or 4 weeks we do a series of 9/11 jokes on our podcast, and I think that just happens to be the week every time that someone tunes into the show and hears us making
The
light
Sears
of Mark
Tower one was
Wahlberg.
really funny though.
The Sears
Come
Tower
on.
one was really
I
funny.
still think about it.
What was the? Are we going to get the Sears Tower one with that New York geography?
Well, I was joking about like visiting the Sears Tower in Chicago and like asking the tour guide, like, so how quickly did they rebuild this after, and the guy's like, what? And he's like, like 9/11. Just like playing it really straight for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like,
And then we were
and
joking
just
about
like
what if we
standing at the window, just looking down, and be like, man, can you imagine what it must have been like?
then just going to all the tallest towers in all of the cities and running the same bit at the
Go to the
Sears
Burj
Tower.
Khalifa, be like,
Yeah, the Burj
man,
Khalifa. It's crazy.
That might not be the best place to run
No,
that,
probably not.
but
I-
but here's my honest thought about that is like if you're I was thinking about this with 'cause I was showing Phoebe my wife the fool me once, fool me twice bit
Great bit.
Very good.
Wonderful.
And she was like, oh, I gotta get something. And so in the meantime, I was watching the Jungkook bit, and she came back and she was like, is this the same guy? Just like, and I was like,
so
he's
many
like
hats.
he's talking about a song where they're using explicit language, and he's using explicit language to talk about it. That
Please,
feels fine to me.
I've just heard of so many men having to defend me to their partners.
Last night. I did.
Yes, I'm so happy it's proliferating throughout. There was a man, I don't know, you won't know where Townsville is, but it's very far away. And at a Christmas party I was at earlier in the year, a man insisted on listening. It's a 28-hour drive, and he insisted on listening to the podcast. And we got there, and
With his wife.
28
hours.
And he was a friend of a friend, but he was also listening to the podcast. He said, "I'm loving the podcast," and just the hate with which his wife. Like, I don't understand what you do. I don't like it. I've been
I think you
exposed
did
to
probably
it.
like it for the first 4 or 5 hours, but there's
You just have to pick your spots. You got to pick your spots. An episode that's all about the intricacies of God knows advertising law might not be someone's thing.
No, we lost a lot of people on that one, but I'm building back strong with. We'll talk about it later.
So
anyway,
hold on. No, we got to. I mean, do you have that? Because we can stop and start again, but we got to do a.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
We need to do more.
Yeah, I got time.
Yeah.
All right,
I've got time.
All right. Well,
it's not even the start of the workday yet here. It's still before 8 a.m.
It says time left 3:18.
I just wanted to make sure that it was telling us.
Oh, it'll let us know.
Yeah.
It'll let us know.
Yeah. So that's our tech
Is
man.
that Sam Clark in the background?
It's Sam Clark.
Sam Clark,
Oh, amazing. Tell Sam Clark I said hello.
Oh, wait, I probably should. Hello. How you doing?
Hey, Sam. Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet
Heard
you
a lot about
guys.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, dude.
It's like
That's
meeting
wonderful.
a celebrity. Sam's more.
It
of a
really
celebrity
is.
than James is.
Get James off the pod. Put Sam on.
Sam does make a lot of contributions to the Catecast that disappear.
Where does he find all of the
He
VHS
self-edits
tapes
himself
of
out.
these?
Where do you find the VHS tapes?
Sam's VHS choices are inspired. It's true.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Where do you find the VHS tapes?
Where do I find the tapes?
Oh, boys, we've only got 2 minutes left before we have to
I'm
restart
sorry.
this one. You can't have this
I'm
man
sorry.
talking about. All right, you can quick answer on the VHS tape.
So yeah, I mean, anywhere from eBay or like usually just like corners of vintage stores. But recently, actually, I'm about to go on tour with James. I'm doing everything on camcorder. We're flying, catching a train, catching an overnight bus, all this crazy stuff. And I put a tape in one of my camcorders that said, need a cleaning cassette. It needed a cleaning cassette for the heads.
What is
of,
that?
Exactly.
They're too young, Sam.
So it's
I don't
like,
remember.
Is it like CD spray where you spray on it and then you
It's
clean
kind of
the
like-
back of the
So
CD?
glad this story can only take another minute and 50 seconds.
It's a cassette and the tape has lubricant on it that cleans the inside of the camera. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm old enough to hear about this.
And so I was looking around because it won't record without me cleaning the heads of this camera. I'm looking around. At the minimum price is $180, and you have to get it from Japan. So it wasn't going to come in time for the tour. I'm ringing around. I'm ringing everyone I know, ringing every store I know that deals with video. They're like, what are you talking about? Rarest hen's teeth, all this stuff. I ring the last guy and he's like, I'm not at the shop today, but you can go past and it might be in the corner in a stack of things. I got there, it was there, and it was $15.
Amazing.
$15.
Oh, AUD.
So
That's incredible.
AUD. That's like
the tour
American.
must go on.
That's wonderful.
The tour
That's a good
must go
story.
on.
I can't believe
Three
I
Americans.
can't believe you
perfect.
clocked that in time. We got less than a minute. We're going to come back with part 2, where we maybe go through some of the Catecast.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right.
We have time while we figure it out. All right, we're back soon.
Now a word from our sponsors.
We don't have any. Hey, it's great to be here with you.
Quick little update. So James and I have been involved in a group in our parish, and we put together a magazine called Agony Magazine.
Agony Magazine.
Agony Magazine.
Agony Magazine.
So, Agony Magazine. Get it at all good magazine distributors, mostly our website.
AgonyMagazine.com.
Agony Magazine.
.au?
Something like that.
It's something like that.
We'll
have
put it in
below.
there. Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
below.
All done. Welcome back.
Here we go.
What a wonderful cool down period that was.
It was.
Refreshed.
Oh,
Yeah,
look,
nice little break.
we figured it immediately as the cameras went off there. Jack said, I'm not doing the catechast with these boys. He said, absolutely not. It would be, and then I think we couldn't find the place. And we're also,
Sure.
we want this to come out swiftly and we're ahead.
Hmm.
You don't want to give away
What?
the inside baseball?
No, I think I'm being unfairly represented, Jimmy.
Who are we
You're-
going to tell?
My thoughts were it would be much more interesting, given that you guys have generously given us your time. And thank you very much again for that. For us to, dig a little deeper and get to know you a little better. And there's a few things where it's like, I mean, what are the big questions, I suppose, that you guys had, or maybe even still have? You mentioned before about, questions of life and death, which I think are excellent questions to delve into.
Indeed.
There's other stuff to get to. I want to get
Yeah.
to the 9/11 jokes again, but we can
Yeah.
talk about. So
We'll circle back to that. Yeah.
So
Like on a plane.
Ethan, you were haunted by death anxiety from.
Yeah.
It sounds like from what age? I had a similar
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, this is. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. It's always nice to hear another person that has panic attacks in the middle of the night, thinking about one
Yeah.
day existing for eternity. And so I think I was 8 years old, and my parents were watching the film "It's a Wonderful Life."
Great film.
And
Great film.
Shit,
Wonderful
That'll do it.
film.
That'll do it.
And something just about just the whole plot of that movie. When I was 8, I was in the kitchen eating a brownie during a commercial break, and I started having a meltdown. And that's the first time I just remember, this is like a moment for me of just like, okay, one day I'm going to die. And this is not all, this is like, it was, and it's always been hard for me because it's scary then. And my parents comforted me, but it's never really gone away. Like even the times where I've been extremely close to the Lord, and I'm not necessarily in that place now, but when I was a missionary and I was praying a lot, and like I really felt like I knew him and I could hear his voice, like the clearest that I could ever hear in my life for a sustained period of time. Even then, I still had this like gnawing anxiety about, okay, no matter what I do, no matter what types of things I accomplish in my life or don't accomplish, I'm going to die one day, and I'm going to be in either heaven or hell, and I'm going to exist forever. And even if I'm in heaven, then it's eternal joy. But the hard thing for me is like, the reason that I have joy and happiness in my life now is because sometimes I don't. And so when I do have it, then it feels good as opposed to the times when I don't have it. So when I always have joy and happiness and togetherness, will it forever be as good as it is at the beginning? But there's no beginning.
When you crack open Revelation and it is, for all time, it's animals around the throne singing holy, holy, holy forever. You go, man, forever?
Don't you get bored?
I mean, it seems like too long for me.
So what?
Yeah.
But you said there was a way in which you came to some consolation, I suppose.
No.
on it.
No.
You still haven't.
This is ongoing.
Nice.
This is ongoing. I mean, there were times where it was lessened because I mean, maybe I just trusted God more, had more faith. But even in those moments, it was still, I would still have the panic attacks and the anxiety, and I still struggle with that now. So it's challenging.
But does that make
sense?
Yes, the concept of infinity and eternity you find
Horrifying.
disquieting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, then we do have a different. I mean, I fear death. I fear nullification, and I find the prospect of an eternity in hell to be not the worst possible option. Like to have a non-immortal soul to me seems like I've often said that if I wake up after death and I'm in hell and I've done badly, there will be a sense of still relief there for me because I mean,
You'll
quickly
exist.
probably past that.
Well, and it all makes sense. Yeah.
There will have been,
goodness.
a moral certainty the whole time. I was just wrong about it.
The correct answer was Mormon.
But I think that the thought of infinity I find really soothing. I feel I don't want to lose any. I don't know. Oh, I'd never turn off my life support machine. It's something that I used to run around telling people, bankrupt yourselves, you don't know what medical advances will be coming in the future. But I'm trying to think do you remember which bit of It's a Wonderful Life that horror kicked in? I mean, I'm assuming second half.
No, I think it was. Doesn't George Bailey's dad have a heart attack at some point in the movie? Is that right?
It's when he doesn't go to university.
something like that. It's like
Wow.
Yeah, that's
something
early.
happens
Yeah.
with his dad,
Yeah.
and it's even before like the angel stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. It
And all
just
of
all
that.
downhill from there if that's what's giving you anxiety because it gets so much worse
Yeah.
after that.
Well, truly,
It's very intense.
Yeah.
Well done, Jack.
My Yeah, I get like I don't I've always had trouble with Ethan's fear of eternity because I'm like I just want to be able to sympathize, but I cannot.
Yeah, Patrick's a terrible friend.
I'm not afraid of dying. I'm afraid of everyone around me dying. I meditate on that often, is
Oh,
that it is very
long
possible
for the death of people around me. I
my
yearn for the
my
yes.
my grandfather was the youngest of his siblings and he lived the longest. And so I just often think about how like he lived like everyone who he knew growing is gone. And it's
Yeah.
just like there's a whole new set of people and that just terrifies me.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm
weird.
fine with myself dying. I like to say that the two biggest fears that people have are public speaking and death. And I love public speaking, and I yearn for death, so I'm good. But yeah, I want to talk more about the fear of infinity because that has always intrigued me, Ethan.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard. Priests, I would talk to priests like every time I meet a new priest. I'm like, what do you think about this? And they always give like the same answer, which is like, oh, you can't understand it yet because you have no way to. We don't. Our finite minds cannot grasp.
It's not a
the
salve.
infinite.
It doesn't really help, I wouldn't think.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help at all. So it's like, so I'm just hurtling towards something that I'm not going to understand as long as I'm alive.
But the fact that
Yeah,
you
cool.
are aware that that's, outside, I think most people just don't think about it, which probably makes
Mhm.
it easier.
Mhm.
But I mean, you've been given a gift of appreciating it in your finite state, which would be
Mm.
horrifying. But I think
Yeah.
that's like that pain should be a source of nourishment. I think it's a foretaste of the sublime, like not necessarily a nice one, but the sublime is meant to be terrifying, right? There is a holy terror, and you are to be like that is a natural human reaction to something outside of human experience that you get some weird freakish taste of. And if you could have it in full in your current state, you would
Mhm.
die, is my understanding.
Indeed.
This is Moses on the mountain.
Mm.
You can't look at my face and this sort of stuff. Not that we're not in a new relationship, but certainly
I
when I
just
think God
wish.
the Father.
I just wish that it drove me to prayer and ecstasy instead of mindless consumption of content, which is what it
Mm.
drives me to now, to numb sort of the fear.
Content is a form
So-
of prayer. And no, I know I had terrible death anxiety,
Mhm.
and it has sort of gone away. And I think it's lack of sleep. It's having
Have more kids.
it's having children.
Yeah. Hey, working on it. Doing my best.
It's I found, but I also got to come to the mass quite late. So that I can feel like there's a pretty sharp division of what that has done in my life before and after.
Mm.
But man, it's a good question. I often wonder if fasting more. This is what I'm currently, maybe the thorn in the side. This is my great new insight. The thorn in the side doesn't have to be sex all the time. Sometimes it can be other discomforts. And like on the way here, I really thought about McDonald's. And I really wanted a McDonald's, which is the only big fast food. We have some others, but we don't. It's like we're a very McDonald's. Will be clear to you when you go to America in a couple of weeks.
Okay, all right.
McDonald's is
options?
one
Jack, you're
among
coming to
many.
America?
I am. I've just booked my
Where are you
flights
going?
today. I'm going to Indiana to see my girlfriend.
Great. Have fun.
He's
I
going
know.
to
That's the best part of
Notre
America,
Dame
man.
tailgate.
It's all
You
downhill
picked
from
a-
there.
You
She
picked the
has a-
top
Yeah, she hasn't.
bottom 10 state in the union.
She's not really loving her time in
You know
Indiana.
what they
I think
say?
it's fair.
Start spreading the news. South Bend. South Bend.
Well, yeah,
They
Mayor
love it
Pete,
there.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
her thing on the consumption thing was that she went to this what do they call it? The trailer
the
Tailgate.
tailgate. She went to this tailgate.
Sorry,
Tailgate,
Mayor
yeah.
Pete was the mayor of South Bend.
No.
Oh.
So she went to this tailgate.
Yeah.
And she's a catechumen at the moment. She's going through catechesis with a priest.
He's like, I gotta write that one down.
Well, no, was he? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out
I
where
think
was he the
so.
mayor of?
Or Fort Wayne or something. Maybe it was Fort Wayne. I think it
No,
was
he
South
was,
Bend.
he
But
was
yeah.
he was the
I don't know
mayor
what
of
we're
South
referencing.
Bend. Yeah.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Anyway, so she was
But his name's South Bend.
yeah,
Mayor of South Bend.
pipe cake. Yeah.
Buttigieg.
Oh, Pete. Okay. This
Mayor
guy.
Pete.
I thought you
He
guys were
was the
talking
mayor
about
of
like a
South Bend.
musical.
He was the mayor of South Bend. I told you this
What?
many times.
No, I never put together that that's the Catholic University.
It's the first thing I said when I met Margot. I said, Mayor Pete.
Man. Sorry, go
And
on.
now you're
I
dating her.
apologize.
And now I'm taking her. Anyway, so she went to this tailgate on the weekend, and they had all this all these T-shirts and stuff, and like she said, it was just she felt so overwhelmed by the consumerist attitude of
Not that there's anything wrong with
this Catholic
something on a
university
t-shirt,
to
but
her faith, which she's trying to take very purely and simply, which is great.
here's another thing that I found that we don't have to tie just on that. This is reminding me of that of things that give people the ick when they're these like traddy men who have these thoughts about like husbandry and wifery and we're Latin mass boys, you know. We go to the fraternity. It's a lovely, beautiful family environment. There are nutty people within Kui.
Well, I think we're counted as one of the nutty people.
Certainly.
Yeah.
We are counted as one nutty person. It's a Jekyll Hyde situation. We can't move on to the same side of the screen. But it's things like, your husband should be allowed to demand sex from you.
Yeah.
You should always have a meal cooking for your husband. And that this is out there and really is repulsive to people. I mean, I heard that and I said to my wife, come on, lift the game. But I think for most people, this is a very repulsive
it's never you should always lay out your husband's bravery. It's never something like that. It's always something to do with the base desires. It's like
a sex and a snack, the big term.
I like that. Yeah. I'm gonna have one rule. You have to lay out my bravery.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, actually.
You must let your husband have a shelf on the space on the plant shelf to keep his bravery. That's
nice. That's killer.
That's my Ephesians 5 moment recently.
Well, I can't say, just to circle back to the death anxiety, I can't say that I have death anxiety necessarily, but my big personal breakthrough with that was I was in the seminary for a few years, and
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, exactly. We were studying Heidegger at the time, and Heidegger, which is he's not my favorite philosopher, but we were doing lots of stuff, and he has this concept which is like being towards death, right? Like your whole life is and it's it's a useful concept in some ways to think about it like that, where it's like your whole life is actually in preparation for death. And yeah, I mean, there's a way in which that makes sense as a Catholic. So it's like I want to have a beautiful death, I want to have a good death, and all of my life is not lived towards that moment; it's lived towards heaven, hopefully. But heaven is only attained by my achieving that moment. And while I was studying this and finding it very difficult, I almost had a heart attack. And an ambulance was called, and I was taken to hospital, and I thought I was dying. And I had to call my mother and say to her, "I'm in an ambulance. They think I'm having a heart attack. This might be it. Like, I love you and goodbye."
Wow.
Yeah. My poor mother. I was fine. It turns out I have a unrelated heart condition, which does not cause heart attacks in people my age. But in any case, it was like, I mean, I think. Yeah, there's
your very strong anti-vaccine stance suddenly makes a little more sense now.
Well, I mean,
hold strong, Jack.
Yeah.
No, I believe myself.
Well, I mean, you don't go seeking death, right? And before that, I was very zealous for that. I was like, oh, I can't wait to be martyred. Like, this will be great. And then you look death in the face, and it is terrifying. But that's also, to me, after that, I read Job for the next month, and then I read just the Garden again and again. Garden of Gethsemane, because I was like, this is I have to enter into this very seriously. Like, this is and I think, I mean, they're not answers, right? Like we did in the catechism recently, we did what's the answer to the problem of evil, right? And the answer is only the whole of the Christian mystery. And it's like, I mean, there is no platitude that
it's quite unsatisfying.
Yeah.
Which is, man, when I watch the Muslim podcasts, which come up on my reels quite a lot, I asked it to stop showing me, the pornographic content over and over again. And eventually it was like, I think this guy wants the Muslim stuff. But it'll be like just very simple answers. God is strong. God is one. Fear is weak. And that'll be it. That's really like the...
James is really internalizing this. Yeah.
Many's the time I now come on the later episodes of this show, growing my beard out ever longer. And I say, It should be simple.
saying
It should
things
be-
like haram and inshallah.
well, that's
Exactly.
right. God does
Yeah,
will it.
yeah. So do you guys so because I understand Steubenville is quite charismatic, like in its spirituality, and so you guys have had a brush with that at least. Is that where you guys are at? Are you guys in the charismatic movement, or is it?
Oh, certainly not.
Yeah, it was definitely like a part of engaging in my faith in a more like total way.
Yeah.
But Franciscan University, contrary to some of its branding, is also very trad. It's kind of a coincidence of opposites over there at the Hill. And yeah, there's a lot of that like battle of like, oh, you should do this in mass, this in mass. And most of my formation since then has been kind of traditionalist and not very like cutting edge. It's my experience of the faith is either like what is consistently held and traditional, or like the last 2 years of like clapping hands, praise and worship music. That's pretty much it. Everything older than 5 years is like, it's dusty and gross. Let's get rid of that. And but this latest song from Brandon Lake, hell yeah, buddy, I'll love that.
I'm
I
gonna
don't know
know.
Brandon Lake. I'm gonna look that up.
Yeah.
I'm in a position where go ahead, James.
No, I was just gonna say, I was just gonna check I got it right. Brandon Lake. We'll look that up.
Yeah, you got to write them down. I was
we can
in an
incorporate.
organization. So the group that is putting on that conference that you're coming to in January, Focus. So I was a missionary with them for 3 years, and they're also kind of like Steubenville in that people say like, oh, this is a very charismatic, because people don't like it when you have adoration in big rooms. That's what
They don't like
charismatic
that.
means
What?
for most parts.
Is that a thing?
They don't
It's-
like when you have a well-lit stage with Jesus on it. They want like
Man,
Yeah.
it did make me uncomfortable in one of the press photos on their website where
Mhm.
they did have stage lighting
Yes.
for
Yeah.
adoration, which I'd never seen before.
hmm
Wow.
It's a big thing here.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I didn't know that was a controversial. I didn't know they were making a political statement. I was just like, I guess in America,
It's just
electricity
people
is a bit
associate it
cheaper,
with
more lights.
with charismatic stuff. They say like,
Yeah.
oh, if you're putting Jesus up on a stage, it must
Protestant,
mean
yeah.
that you're singing these types of songs, which must mean you think this about speaking in tongues, which must mean this about what you think about the Pope. So people just make all these connections, but whether or not they're there. But for Focus, I definitely leaned more traditional throughout my time in Focus, because probably just because of the place that I was. Tulsa, Oklahoma is a good conservative diocese. There's not a lot of craziness going on in Oklahoma. And so if it were up to me and not my son, we'd be going to the Latin Mass. That's 45 minutes to an hour away from my house, but I can't really.
I think the
Can't
sun
really
wins
do
there.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we definitely, I think Patrick and I both lean more that way, but we just due to kind of the evangelistic nature, like I like going to my parish that's round and has plants in the sanctuary, and it's they used to have a resurrected Jesus instead of the crucified Jesus until like last year. So like I like going there because you can meet people and you can get to know the real Catholics of America instead of going to the Latin Mass where there's the people that you guys were talking about.
can't
like a very
move
concentrated,
poets.
a very
You can't throw a rock
concentrated
without
niche.
hitting. Oh, it's honestly, it does sometimes go this. Sometimes I look around and I think this is a very strange segment of humanity. Like it's not a geographical parish.
Well, I think you get that in any
And-
parish, really.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Why
also-
do they
very-
insist?
I'm
Why do they
very
insist on wearing those
similar.
button downs that don't fit? Just get a shirt that fits, please. That's all we're asking.
You're
It's
talking
very
about me and
similar
James.
to
now.
mega churches. Trad parishes like TLM parishes are very similar to mega churches, and I don't say this on the internet often, but the success of there's two very successful groups, like subsets, and like all Christian churches are dying except for all Protestant churches are dying except for like the big ones, and all Catholic parishes are dying except for the trad ones. And the reason is because they just pull people from everywhere so they can pull the cream of the crop. Like this is just true about, a big church in Pittsburgh, people drive 30 minutes to go to it. And everybody who's going to drive 30 minutes is pretty dedicated to the church, right? So they're going to build it up. Whereas like if I go down the road, I don't really care. My parents went here, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
Well, I was
you get
thinking that if they
everybody else.
do at this point blow up the trad thing, which may happen,
happen.
like it's entirely something that I think about happening. It would be to some extent disastrous for geographical parishes. I think like very good for them. But you would suddenly get an influx of all those people who have been siphoned off to the Latin
Yeah.
Mass. And then all of a sudden you've got like 30 people, you got mantillas for the first time. You got complaints being made.
Yeah,
You've
people who
lots
are
of
not going to stop
complaints.
going to mass and are also going to tell you what they think about your mass.
Yeah, it's just it
Yeah.
becomes your problem now. I assume,
Mhm.
like,
I suspect that's why it also hasn't happened yet.
this able to keep it safely over there in the corner where the
Well, certainly
Yeah.
in our diocese, I think, our diocese is very much in a managed decline position, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And there's, we haven't had a lot of ordinations and
Mhm.
there's not a lot of, young
They
families
just,
anywhere. Yeah.
well,
They
I mean,
just
the Latin
blew up
Mass
the
thing
Latin
is
Mass.
3
They
times
just blew
bigger.
up the
But
Latin Mass in my parish. Oh, sorry.
Right. Did they so that the bishop said this is not going to continue anymore? And
No, so a pastor came in, not to my parish, sorry, a parish like in my town. So there was a parish and the pastor came in and said, "Hey, yeah, you're not doing it here anymore." The bishop has permission. The bishop gave permission to this one priest to say Latin Mass at a parish, wherever they let him, as long as he's still alive.
Right.
And so he's old, and so it's ticking. And so the Latin Mass community in my town moved down to like another town that's 30 minutes south, right on the bottom border of our diocese, in the oldest parish, like the most geriatric parish,
Sure.
Heaven's Waiting Room parish in the diocese. 500 people, not families, people
Yeah.
at this parish. And now it's about to double in size and just be like the boomeriest people. And like it's really funny. But eventually all of these folks there's a bunch of young families at my parish because all my friends moved back and had kids, and they're like, we're just gonna go to Ascension even though it's cringe, the music and stuff. And so like our parish is probably going to attract a bunch of those people once that priest dies. And the music minister will probably have to stop singing Gather Us In and Table of Plenty so
Mhm.
often.
Yeah.
I heard both of those songs this week.
Did you really?
I hear them more often than
Yeah.
I have in the last 8 years. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes I'm just sitting and
offensive
I
when
just
their
sit there in
songs do-
communion and I'm like, that
Yeah.
lyric didn't make any sense. What does it even mean to like see the good in myself? Like,
I don't
God
know.
help me see the good in myself. But
This is a bad. I don't. There will often be times where the Latin Mass melody has been retained, but a reharmonization has occurred to give it a little groove for the
Yeah.
Age of Aquarius, and it feels like a big middle finger. Like I bet that no one's done it as that. I bet that wasn't the motivation, but it's like a perversion, and I don't know what to do with the very
Mhm.
nice, Vietnamese choir singing their hearts out on something that's making me so sad. It's I've only been back to the cathedral once recently.
we got a new young music guy at our parish, and I go, aha, here it is. Here we go. But he's just I don't think he has a sacred music background. And so he's just like the older lady who's been running the music for decades is like giving him the songs to play. I'm just like, man, I tried getting him in touch with the trad organist at the other parish. Like, hey, you should go talk to him. He just for fun. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but he might.
Why is this? Is it just that people have grown, like the millennials have grown up with this cringy outreach trying to appeal to them? Like I remember in the Protestant side of things, it's much worse because it's the production values are way higher and the competency is really good, which actually does
Pose a problem.
well, it doesn't seem hokey in the sense. Like people are really going, we need the best band possible. We need Hillsong level smoke machines and like we'll get ripped jeans up there and new songs every week.
Yeah.
Lots of
A
tattoos.
pastor with the big glasses.
And he's having sex with everybody.
Yeah, on
And,
stage and to let them know how relatable they are.
Just glistening out there. And but I there's something like sort of charming about the Catholic version, the Eagles Wings version but it cringes. It is very
It's weird because it's off Broadway. It's like this weird like theater style of music, which nobody listens to outside of that context. Which in a sense
is very
makes it
Broadway.
sacred, which is cool. But I don't know.
My question is like, who is it? Who is it for? Because it's not traditional, so there's no like there's no historical reason outside of we've been doing it for, I guess, since the 70s. It's not like it's not Catholic traditional. It's not substantive. There's no like beauty in it. And it's also not fashionable. Like I can understand a professor of mine said, like, if you want to do praise and worship music at your wedding, you can. Just understand when you watch the wedding video in 20 years, it's going to seem dusty. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that. And so like, I know like we did praise and worship music at our wedding.
It was dusty then
when we got, when Ethan and I got married.
You're nasty.
And, you know, like it was good in the moment, and like I understand in a few years it's probably not going to seem as hip as it did at the wedding, which it did.
Which is why at my wedding we did "Be Thou My Vision" and "Come Now,"
and then
Fount,
on Eagle's Wings for the song.
We did. That was not my choice. That was
I know, that was crazy.
Oh, I was so mad.
That is a real on Eagle's Wings. Is something I only heard recently.
Oh, James loves On Eagle's Wings.
I had a joke with a friend about it, and he was like, "They played that at my dad's funeral." That's a meaningful song to me. And I found that it's also, if you build these things in and they do become a tradition over a long enough period of time, then even if they are hokey, they become associated with important moments in people's lives.
Yes.
And then it is hard to rip it away without being accused of
Well, yeah, I mean,
I can't imagine people feel that way about Table of Plenty. I just can't imagine, like that can't possibly be true.
Well, see, before I went to the ceremony, that radicalized me, and that's why I go to Latin Mass now. But before I went, I was liturgically, completely and utterly in the woods. And I went to some pretty lame, cringy parishes and just thought, this is it, right? Like, I like the Mass.
This is what you do.
This is it. This is the thing. And then it was like, I mean, I have all these like very sentimental attachments to these like terrible 70s hymns now that like if I go to a mass because I can't make it to Latin Mass on a Sunday and I go to a local parish and they bring out the 70s classics, I'm just like, this is great.
It doesn't touch the sides of "Be Thou My Vision."
No, look, it does not. But
when you got a rival dad, when you got a dad you're arguing with and he's singing pretty loud on "Be Thou My Vision," and you're upping your volume on and then all of a sudden everyone's doing songs of praise. That's there's a couple that really go. I mean, in the second week of Lent, you go, Richard and I, we get into it. But what is I love God of Mercy and Compassion. That goes hard.
At my parish, they do some of these classic hymns, but they're set to different lyrics. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be "The King of Love, My Shepherd" is, not that whatever this is.
You just sing the originals loud. It's what Tolkien used to do after Vatican II. He was just doing the responses in Latin.
I know I should probably just stop bitching about it and just talk to the music minister who I've known since I was a kid.
No, we should just keep making podcasts about it. And eventually,
he'll listen. Yeah.
Can we just like do my parish? My parish is so far gone. This is my favorite story to like illustrate the parish. One time at the 5:30 contemporary mass, the priest asked the music minister if we could do something more traditional, and he played "Gather Us In."
Nice.
That's how far gone the music at the parish is. I was like, no, let's not do that. Let's either go hard to contemporary or let's just. But that, like you were saying, it's like now it is traditional, and the issue is that there was such a break, and like now the break has become the tradition, and so you can't just do it again because that just fixes.
Yeah, the jaws snap shut. It's not like you get perpetual revolution and it's staying fresh. The window opens, the air comes in. The window closes again, and very quickly,
the room is stuffy.
It's a stuffy room once more, is my feeling. And the answer is not perpetual reform. The answer is just to let me write the songs.
So, James, we did say, I think we should, we're running out of time, but we could do one quick thing because we did talk about,
we've got 10 minutes.
We talk about death, anxiety. What are some other big, maybe for you, Patrick, was there another big like stumbling block for you along the way, or still is?
The thorn in my side that is not sex. Don't worry about that.
All right.
It's
appreciate it.
That is it's this despair. I talked about this on the pilgrimage with Ethan. I like really worked through this on the pilgrimage. On the pilgrimage, I kept finding pits and just chilling in the
pits and holes and caves to hang out.
And I just loved them. I just love
nice.
they have so many pits in the Holy Land. You just go in, just chill.
We got to
no
go
one's there.
We got to go to Caiaphas's palace, and we got to be in the pit where Jesus was kept overnight.
What?
Yeah.
I also
yeah,
got
it's
to be
pretty
in the nativity crush by myself, which is not common, but that was
Yeah.
cool too.
because we went
Um,
in the hottest part of the year, and so there were no pilgrims.
Nobody
and
there.
So we got the
Yeah.
whole
Amazing.
nativity church to ourselves. It was awesome.
And my desire, I was talking about this with Ethan about like I feel comforted by the sorrowful mysteries and like uncomfortable and like brought to tears by the joyful and the glorious. It was just like I'm backwards, like what's going on. And I just something that I've had to work through is like making that feeling, it's a desire for the end. This is kind of where I landed. I've always been like this. I always wanted to get older. I always wanted to I always wanted to be grown up. I always wanted to do the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. That's kind of tempered a bit because now I have a son and I don't want him to grow up.
Yeah.
But I have this like desire for the end, this desire for the story to be finished. And that sometimes manifests itself as despair. It's never going to get better. It's never going to end. It's never going to be fine. And that is something that I've brought to confession multiple times. I try not to bring it as often because sometimes the priest wants me to explain it and I don't want to explain it. I just want you to absolve me, do the thing. But yeah, and then in good moments, it becomes like a desire for heaven. And so it's like the weakness, the fear of infinity or the fear of oblivion, like our weaknesses are sometimes just like the shadow side of our strengths. And so like, just that's how I feel. So for myself, it's like I think it's a universal truism, but I just try to turn that despair into a virtue.
Wait, how do I turn my fear of infinity into a virtue, Patrick? What's the shadow side of that? How do I
I don't know, like
shadow
all
the head
fear,
side?
all
Jungian.
fear,
Celebrate
you
the
fear something, you
contemporary.
desire something too. It's like, what do you
Lionize
desire?
the
It's
present.
like,
What do I desire? Wealth
Yeah.
and fame. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Those are good. But
You're talking James's language now.
well, my wife accused me of being proud because we're going to America and we're sort of planning it. And it's like she's like, you should, to a greater extent though, James, maybe take this before God. And like we're gonna do what we have to do and what, why do you think you're getting a say on these things? And then I had a big pushback and I was like, as the husband, it is my responsibility to think about blah, 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 blah. And we haven't quite resolved that conversation. It is a dialogue. It's an emerging dialogue. But it's one of those. Well, I mean, now we're looking at, it's the next day and I'm going, she is right. And that's hard because I don't know how to bring that up. But it is, how much attachment. I mean, some of it is attachment. We are not Buddhists. Like, it is good to have attachment. It is good to, like, modernism is the lionization of the present, right? As opposed to the thinking of the last things. And so to be preoccupied with the last things is virtuous. Now, to be horrified by them and to be reduced into a stupor is, I think,
now we're talking.
not
useful.
Is impractical.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is impractical,
never
but
mind.
it
It's a
is
sin
like,
against industry.
it's a component of this. The impulse there is good. Like, that could, I think, obviously be reoriented towards the good more easily than someone who's just like living life large and focusing on the moment. But I think that's, I used to have terrible death anxiety and I don't have it anymore. And a lot of it is because I now fixate on like work and money. I don't think of it as fame, but it's like, yes, fame is a natural endpoint of if I get to do stand-up comedy and there's going to be X number of people in the room and I'm able to feed my family, it would help if people knew who I was when I showed up in town.
But man's empty praise.
I want man's full and meaningful praise. That's what I want. It's I mean, a lot of that is just how do you provide? We don't have the luxury of I went to a monastery early on in my marriage for like a week, and it was the first time that I had understood that was the chastity is sort of like is not just a giving up, it's a receiving. Not chastity, sorry. Celibacy is a gift that you then get to experience. Poverty and celibacy allows you to experience the sublime and to pursue it in a way that as a father and a husband, you're not really allowed to be a holy fool because your children go hungry. There's, obviously we want to be, I don't want to go on yes, the birds and their nests and the lilies in the field, but also I got to send my child to school or we're in trouble. It's not just for me. I'm not caring about how I'm looking, but to what extent, but then you can really get lost in that and get off on it. And, it's good to have people around just to check you sometimes and say, for that.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I haven't fully worked through that discussion with the wife yet.
This is the best place to do it though. Not with her, just with
online.
us.
Yeah.
With you guys.
When no one is listening.
Publicly.
Yeah.
We've only argued like 4 times. We've been together for 7 years. No, it doesn't happen very often. And it wasn't even an argument. She just raised quietly, do you think you're being proud? And I went, do I?
How dare you? How dare you say that about me? Yeah.
I was trapped in my mind. I'm going to bring her a thick shake on the way home when we finish from Carl's Jr., which we now have.
Oh, you got the Carl's Jr.'s.
We just got them. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're challenging McDonald's for primacy. I'm going to apologize. I'm sorry for taking it to that place. 2 beers. That's all it takes.
Well, we've only got 2 minutes left before
2 minutes left.
It ends. But I just want to say, because everyone else was really vulnerable, my big thing is forgiveness. And it's like you can intellectualize your way through forgiveness as much as you want.
I should have asked you. I was being proud.
But man, until you've got someone to forgive, it's all intellect. And then when you've got someone to forgive, it's all like, I want to destroy this person and they need to be.
We spoke about when you come out of confession, what's like the thing that very quickly pulls you back into mortal sin that you give into. And for me, it's always a sexual. It almost always will be a sexual thing. But Jack said it was anger. You lean into anger, and I've never. It's so rare for me to have that. God willing, it doesn't.
I walk out of the box and I see somebody else waiting there. I'm like, "Well, you think you're better than me?"
It's good to know what's going on, bro.
Beautiful.
Man, this has been nice. I can't believe we got to do this. I can't believe we got up for this.
Yeah, of course.
It was great.
If there's anything
I didn't know we were going to do an hour and a half of the Catecast with very few mentions of the Catechism.
I would drive across town for you guys.
I know. Well, this was wonderful. I had fun.
Well, we'll both be in America soon.
Yeah,
and I'll see. I look forward to seeing you both in the flesh.
Well, you should come. I live in the American Melbourne, so you should come on. You should come on down.
Well, James, when you're at the Sikh conference, Patrick and I have recorded live at the last 5 or 6 Sikh conferences, and so maybe we can get you into the booth.
Oh, you'll be there.
I think. Yeah, we'll be there. Like we're recording live. Like there's a podcast booth where they do live podcasts, and we'll be at that. So you should just
that makes
over
me feel
half
a lot more
show.
Comfortable.
He will.
I live in an American city called Melbourne. That's right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's
what? Really?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird.
All right. Well, I think we're about to run out of time. Thank you very much, The Crunch, for coming on the Catecast. Yes. It's been really nice to
expect 15 to 20 new people coming your way off the back of this, and I'll see you in January if my visa passes.
Yeah, but we'll pray for it.
When your visa passes. Quick,
the Crunchcast. How about that?
The Crunchcast.
Ooh, I like
on
that.
Everything.
Yeah.
Anyway.
On everything?
Yep.
At the Crunchcast on everything. Instagram, not TikTok.
No, he's doing.
Carry on.
I'm going to get the TikTok and keep it safe for you so the Chinese government doesn't make a bad one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. God bless. Thank you so much. And at some point, this will just shut down naturally.
Okay. We'll just wave until that happens.